What is up, society? Welcome back to another backseat blogger. That was my weak air horn attempt. Anyways, this is where I take the blog posts that I've previously written and I transfer them into video form. Also work on my editing, which is not that great, but that's not why you're here, is editing, I guess. Anyways, today we're talking about setting boundaries as a streamer. Yeah, you have to do this. If not, it's going to be extremely difficult for you. Yeah, seriously. I think the number one thing that anyone will talk about is do not, I repeat, please do not ever share your location. Ever. And I think that may come as a bit of a shock. Actually, truth be told, today, recording this video, I actually seen a tweet about it and I never really thought about it. Not that I posted about it before, but it was kind of interesting. Someone had posted never to say when your power goes out. Yeah, I'll have to update the blog. Because if you post when your power goes out, if people know the general area, then they could probably find where you live. And you do not want to do that as a streamer for obvious reasons and unobvious reasons, including stalkers, fake raids, you know, all the good stuff. This includes, I think, where you position your camera. I know it probably sounds silly. That would be another thing. For example, if you look at my stream, my camera was over there at one point, and there's a window over here. Now, I have curtains up. At one point, I didn't have the greatest curtains, but there was curtains up nonetheless. If you look out those windows, you probably don't see any landmarks or anything that'll show where I live or whatever. And I'm pretty open. I live in Quebec, and that's pretty much all I share. Close to Montreal. There's millions of people here, which is huge. And a culture shock for me. Yeah. You don't want people to know where you're at for obvious reasons. It's just internet safety. Last name can be kind of tricky. I think it depends on the person. I know people who don't even share their actual name, which I think can be probably also a little bit difficult. For me, I'm pretty open. People know my name is Stacey. It's basically how I spell it on my channel and everywhere else. It's just spelt a little differently, but said the same. Obviously, my name's Stacey. My last name, I don't really advertise. Could you find it? Probably. Do I care? Not really. If you look at esports players, you know all their names, you know everything. I know streamers who have different bios on them in different places. And they also have their names out there. Is it a big deal? Probably not. But if you're a big player, then obviously they're going to know your name. Hello. As far as trolls go, I think they'll probably find it at some point. So if you want to just say it, then get it over with. As far as names go, I think it just depends on the person. If you want to use an alias, go for it. If you don't, say it. But I think it's important that you set boundaries, because if you don't set boundaries as a streamer, that's when things can be a bit tricky. I know for me, I'm really nice, and if someone DMs me on Discord, chances are I'm going to reply, but there's been a lot of creeps in that sense. Yeah, for real. Do I handle it? Normally I just ignore it and move on to what they were talking about before. If they get really creepy, I just block and remove. Boundaries are important for many reasons. I think it's also important to remember that as a viewer, even myself, I like when a streamer is friendly. They don't need to be your friend, but if they're friendly, I think that also sets them apart. I know streamers who are very to the point. They have the intro, they start their stream, they don't do a lot of just chatting. It's tough to get to know who they are, and it can be really robotic, I guess, and you don't really want to do that, because I feel like as a viewer they might not stick around. If I want to watch a robotic intro or whatever like this, I'm gonna go to YouTube, which is why I edit these videos the way I do. I think that if you set the boundaries up in the beginning, then it can be a little bit less of a shock. If you're a big streamer, which I know you guys know when I start this little story that you probably can think of who I'm talking about. Some streamers, female in particular, probably male, whom I don't know, they don't disclose that they have partners in their lives, which can be kind of disconcerting when they're very flirty or they're really lovable to chat. Is that a bad thing? Not really. Is it anyone's business? Not really. And people who complain about it, stop giving them money or supporting them, I guess, if that's what you don't like, because, you know, that's probably a whole different subject on blogs. I think as far as setting boundaries goes, it's super important to do. For me, and a big example of that would be my boyfriend. Due to his work and whatnot, I don't disclose his name. He doesn't even really go on camera. If he does, he just comes over and you can't see his face. Is it possible to see his face? Yeah. He's on my Instagram sometimes, and I'm sure you see the odd picture on Twitter. Does he really care about it? Probably not really. I don't really talk about his name. If it comes up, it comes up. Sometimes I've slipped it. Obviously, if I'm streaming and it's a heat of the moment thing, then I'm gonna say it. I don't normally call him that. I call him Space. That's what he wants to be called based on his username online, and that's what I say. I think it's important to respect those boundaries as well. My parents, I talk about my brother and sister. Now, right now I game with my brother, so you'll probably hear me say his nickname and whatnot. But I just don't do it. If somebody you know supports your streaming like my boyfriend does, and he does not want you to divulge those things or me, then I'm not going to do it. Respect those boundaries. Just as you want your viewers to respect your boundaries as a streamer, you want the people who support you to also know that their boundaries are being respected in that sense. I think it's super important to set these boundaries early on, because as the saying goes, if you give an inch, they'll take a mile. So if you start by having very low boundaries and or non-existent ones where you just spill everything, from where you live to basically your social insurance number to your postal code, your credit card number and stuff, it's very hard to get that back. In the beginning, I always set boundaries in the sense that I was not going to show a lot of cleavage. As you can tell, not normally. That was where I wanted to go. That's what I knew, and people would come and chat and say different things. I also set the boundaries as far as my appearance. I'm not a thin person. I will eventually be a thin person, I hope, without munching all the time, but you know, that's totally different. I just knew that for me as a streamer, if somebody came into my chat and was belittling, this is also probably next week's blog, is trolling. So it'll tie into it a little bit. I knew that if someone came in and they were rude, they were going to be gone. That was my boundary. I don't need someone in my chat like that. So I think as far as setting boundaries, it's probably something you should think about before starting to stream. Just because you want that up before. You don't want to have to retract things, because once it's out there, it's out there. So with that being said, hopefully this touches a little bit more on it. Setting boundaries is very challenging because it's so different. Every streamer is different. I know people who I've watched for years, and they share everything from their last name to family life to friends to different funny events that happen to them. And then I also know some streamers who don't really talk about that at all. They barely even say their own name, and you just call them by their username. So, you know, like, you got to look at what's for you. I want you to feel like in my streams that you're with me here. I'm the same person on and off stream, believe it or not. I don't really change. I think I'm hilarious. I'm kind of sarcastic. But I don't want you to feel like you're watching a robot or some person with no emotions. So with that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you like this video, consider following, liking, subscribe, whatever. Ring the bell. Ding ding. remember, some of these tips are not going to suit you, and that's okay. Find something that does. And I hope to see you in the next one. Happy streaming, and see you in chat. Bye.